Welcome to another episode of Trident Talks. Today I am joined by Rajiv Taori, CEO at Prowler. Great to have you aboard, Rajiv. Do you want to, I suppose, give a brief overview of kind of who you are, what you do, and what you're doing now at Prowler?
Thank you, Gareth. Excited to be here. Happy to chat with you about that. I've been at Prowler a little over a year now. Joined as the Chief Operating Officer, the first person on the business side. And my background and history is really, I started out as an engineer. So I've always been drawn to working in sort of tech companies or tech spaces, solutions sort of that work for developers and IT and cybersecurity professionals. So that's sort of like a one common thread that's been running, that's been sort of a passion of mine personally to make that happen. And uh, you know, uh, uh, lots of different experiences at many companies over the years. Um, so some of the more seminal experiences were a couple of startups that I joined or started myself as founder and CEO, and sort of the high growth learnings that were there. So I remember sort of almost 20 years ago, I joined an early startup called Peakstone, which ended up eventually getting acquired by Entrust, and that sparked my passion about sort of internet performance and web performance management and how to handle people who were coming to interacting with businesses online and at scale, etc. And that set me on that journey to do that. And then I worked at a large company called Oracle in the middle, and I love that experience as well because we built a whole business from scratch, really, even within Oracle, through a combination of organic product development and acquisitions along the way. Went from nowhere to leadership in the Gartner MQ, for that quadrant, for the quadrant that we operated in. So it was super exciting there. Um, and then eventually, most recently, I was at SentinelOne, which is a cybersecurity player. And before that, I was at Amazon Web Services. Again, both very entrepreneurial environments,
Mhm.
but, in a different context. And Prowler is sort of like a combination of both of those experiences and passions. At Amazon Web Services, I was working on an open source project. We built a managed service for an open source project called Elasticsearch.
Mhm.
And we built a very successful managed service for it. It grew to almost $1.5 billion ARR when I was there. And now it's over 2.5 billion ARR, I believe, at this point. And then in SentinelOne, obviously, we focused on cloud security. Cloud security was one of our product lines that we focused on, and just saw the tremendous growth and demand from customers for that. And so Prowler allows me to sort of combine both of those threads, so to speak. It's an open source project in cloud security.
Mhm.
And the vision of what we did at AWS with taking an open source project and building a managed service that we could monetize and commercialize is what sort of also animating how we think we can build Prowler out. Yeah.
Okay. And I know that previously you were very product focused, right? You were a product leader, and then when you went to Sentinel One, you became a general manager, but for all go-to-market teams, right? From
Yep.
sales, SEs, customer success. How different was that for you to move from a pure product leader perspective to a general leader across multiple divisions?
Um, it's a different, it's new skills, obviously, that you got to work on. But it's not that different from what you do day to day in a
Okay.
regular product role. Essentially, as a product manager, you're dealing a lot with customers, you're identifying what are their pain points or problems, how to best solve them, and build a solution, etc. And you're doing sort of the same things in a go-to-market role. It's obviously a lot more um, short, focused on sort of near-term results. Like, hey, can we do this? Can we bring in opportunities this quarter, this month, this quarter,
Mhm.
this
Yeah.
year, etc. And product roadmap is sort of a little more long run, but the same principle in terms of being very customer focused and understanding their pain points and building and offering them a solution or capability that makes their lives easier, makes them successful is sort of the approach that I took. And I think that's been that works very, very well for me.
Okay. And within your career, you've almost dabbled with from a startup perspective, and then you've gone to these big names, but you seem to always get drawn back into the startup realm. What is
Yes.
it that kind of brings you back into that fold?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I started out my career as I mentioned, at a company called Peakstone, which got acquired by Entrust. I ended up founding a company called Mobile Ops, where I was the founder and CEO. And now I'm at Prowler. And then in between them, I had big company stints at sort of Oracle, and then AWS at Citrix, and now Prowler. So I enjoy both environments, interestingly enough. In a big company, in a small company, you get ultimate control. Like you can do what you want to do, how you want to do it, when you want to do it. In large companies, you get more, you enjoy the scale.
Yeah,
So you get a lot of leverage with your work. You're narrowly focused on a function or an aspect about sort of the overall business. And there's a large team that sort of you can work with that does many other things. Um, so I sort of enjoy both. I enjoy the scale, the leverage that you get in the large companies, and how much impact you can have from the work that you do. And then at the same time, I also enjoy the control that you get in a startup and being
yeah.
able to build something really innovative and cool, and take it to market and see it come to life.
Okay. And what are you specifically focused on today at Prowler?
So at Prowler, we are just starting our journey as a company, and as a business. And that's what I lead. I lead all of our go-to-market and business operations essentially for the company.
Okay.
We are, Prowler is a very successful open source project. Today, we are the world's most widely adopted open source tool for cloud security. And we see a tremendous opportunity and customers are dragging us over into having a commercial offering that they can use,
Yeah,
because they want to rely on somebody that they can count on, that they can call, that they can reach out to address questions or problems that they might have, etc.
yeah.
And and so that's the journey that we want to take with our customers as we build the business.
Before we get into what Prowler does today, I think it's worth rewinding, because this didn't start as a company in the traditional sense, did it? So, do you want to just give an overview of how did Prowler originally start, the project behind it, and yeah, just give us an idea of kind of maybe what the goal was, when the project or the open source tool was when it was started.
It's a fascinating story. So Tony De La Fuente, he actually was a cloud security engineer at one point, 9 years ago, at one point in his life. And he was looking for something to make his own life easier. And he couldn't find a solution. So he wrote it. And he called it Prowler, which is a wonderful name for, if you think about it, for a cloud security product. And he open sourced it, because and no expectations around whether it will be useful or not. He's like, hey, I did this, I found it useful, let me just
Yeah,
share it. And it just took off. I mean, it's one of those crazy stories. And for the next 7 years, believe it or not, he just supported the open source community, weekends and evenings, helping grow it.
wow,
And then eventually, it's a massively successful open source project. And at some point, he's like, "Oh my God, I need to hire people.
yeah.
Okay, now I need to pay them, and now I need a company, and now I need to raise money, and so that's how the Prowler journey. That's how Prowler as a company came about. So literally, Prowler as a company only started 2 years ago. For 7 years, it existed as an open source project.
Okay.
Tony and me actually worked at AWS at the same time.
Yeah.
Uh, we were on a different team, so he was doing something different, etc. But he knew of the service, the Elasticsearch service, the open source service that I was part of at AWS,
Hmm.
and was inspired by sort of what we had done with an open source project, etc. So
Okay.
we reconnected later, in the context of Prowler, and obviously bonded on the shared experience that we had lived at AWS, etc. So that's
And
how Prowler got started. Yeah.
at what point did it become clear then that this needed to turn into a real company?
I think it was like about a couple of years ago, where he saw, obviously the need for users in the community for more support than he could provide by himself. So, a stronger team, a full-blown team sort of backing it. And he also saw sort of like a lot of other companies using the open source project underneath the hood to build services around it and building healthy businesses around it. And so at some point it was like, hey, why not us? Like, if everybody else can do it, like we are the best position to be able to do it. Why not us? So that's how it kind of like got started.
Okay, and I suppose like, what do you think drove that this explosion in adoption from kind of where it was now to where it is today?
Yeah, we were 15 million downloads cumulatively. If you There's one metric if you want to look at it. We had 15 million downloads last year this time, and we are over 40 million downloads now in one year cumulatively. So we've more than tripled.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just skyrocketed. And I think uh, several factors went into that, but I think one of the biggest factors was the growth of AI.
Mhm.
Uh, so with AI, it became very easy for developers to build and deploy applications. And obviously, securing them is something that they really cared about. So that drove a lot more demand for
Sure.
these types of solutions. And then the other part is also the nature of cloud security changed. So the traditional tools that people were using um, to handle cloud security were not designed for the AI era.
Okay.
Prowler built out a lot of those AI native capabilities
Mhm.
in the open source product itself to support that. So we have an MCP server, we have an agentic AI solution that we call Prowler Lighthouse AI. And I think so. So both of those dynamics sort of coupled with each other, the demand exploded, and we had the capability that people were looking for, the AI native capability that people were looking for to support it, and it just caught on fire.
Yeah. Right place at the right time, right? I have.
Yeah.
And in simple terms, then, what does Prowler do?
So Prowler is a cloud security solution. Our core capability is really to help customers identify their security risks
Mhm.
before they get exploited.
Okay.
So before it becomes an incident, because before it becomes an issue where you have to run around and sort of resolve a breach or a data exfiltration that's happening or ongoing at the point, we tell you sort of what all the vulnerabilities are that the bad guys or the bad actors could possibly exploit. And then we give you a prioritized list of sort of, okay, this is the most likely places where you're most vulnerable. So
Mhm.
let's go fix that and strengthen your posture so
Okay.
that you have a lower risk of being exploited. That's what we do.
Okay. So where does Prowler typically run then? Is it within the CI/CD, the production environment? Like, give me an idea of what that looks like.
Yeah, both places.
Okay.
We have the biggest value obviously comes in a production environment
Mhm.
because that's where your most the most valuable assets are, your IP, your customer data, etc. And um, even if you think your production environment is secure today, it might not be tomorrow because there's just so much change and update happening in real time to
Mhm.
your cloud environments. So you need a way to kind of continuously assess it and make sure that it is protected. We also have a very powerful use case where Prowler can be used within the CI/CD pipeline. So DevOps teams or developers will use Prowler throughout the development cycle, dev, stage, production, etc., to identify risks and eliminate them before it gets rolled out to production. So they
Mhm.
get to the best possible security uh, posture that they can when they get to production, and then they're able to sort of also monitor in production for some real-time changes or real-time issues that might emerge there.
Okay, yeah, fine. I suppose when people think of cloud security, they often think of like the large platforms, right? The
Yep.
Wiz, the Prisma Cloud, wherever it may be. But you guys aren't really in a head-to-head competition with the big players like a Wiz or a Prisma Cloud, right? You work in conjunction with them, right? It kind of complements their platform.
Yes and no.
Okay.
I mean, they also talk about the same cloud security story, etc.
Hmm.
Uh, and there are two main differences between us and them. So one is, they're black box, they're proprietary solutions,
Hmm.
um, and we are open source.
Of
Um,
course.
there is a inherent trust that a lot of customers can have because they can see exactly what we're doing. And for security practitioners, that's really important and valuable. They want to make sure that the threats that they are really care about are actually being handled the way that they expect it to be handled, right?
Hmm.
And give them all of that visibility. So I think that openness and the open source aspect is sort of really critical about that. Um, the second area is really around sort of the types of customers that we engage with. So um, we see a lot of interest from mid-market and SMB customers
Okay.
who probably maybe couldn't afford to use the Wiz, the Palo Alto, the Orcas of this world that cost like hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, etc. And
Sure.
sort of they view Prowler as a good solution for them. The other place that we also see lots of interest and traction is from MSPs and MSSPs. And it sort of really jives well with the mid-market and SMB segment for customers as well.
Hmm.
Uh, MSPs, MSSPs tend to serve that segment really well. Those customers rely on external security providers for the hands-on expertise and the thought leadership on security because oftentimes they can't have that in-house.
Hmm.
Uh, and the MSSPs really love the open source, the cost efficient way that they can run and operate Prowler as part of a service offering that they provide. So
Yeah.
that's in terms of customer segments that we operate in, it sort of is also a little bit different from them.
Okay. What's been the hardest point of like turning an open source project into what you guys are today?
Well, and that's exactly right. So with any open source project, you know, your first challenge is can you achieve distribution? And
Hmm.
my God, we've done that in spades.
Yeah.
And the next challenge is how do you monetize that? Or
Hmm.
can you achieve commercialization, right? So that's the journey that we're on right now. And that is really sort of the biggest challenge. What is the value? Uh, what is the additional value of a commercial offering on top of the managed service or on top of the open source project that compels users to sort of adopt that, right?
Hmm.
And what you can see is sort of there's a natural break point where individual users or small teams can successfully use open source, but maybe like an enterprise-wide deployment or a large team, has requirements for scale, for some enterprise features, etc., that only makes sense in a large environment. They have need for support, things like that, customizations,
Hmm.
that's integrations. That's the kind of thing that you can provide as sort of a managed service. So that's
Okay.
the
And this next question is there's only a very select few leaders that can answer it, right? But like, how does having
I'll give it
a
a shot. I'm not sure. That's a big setup.
how does having a massive open source user base change how you think about going to market?
So it's a great question, actually. So for us, it is the biggest difference is you're trying to in a if you're outside an open source environment, you're fighting for awareness.
Hmm.
You're fighting to get on the radar of your buyers, make them, be on the short list, etc., or
Sure.
to avoid, right? With an open source project, it's sort of, you're well known. You're mostly going to your existing users and adopters and seeing which ones of those need the additional value that your managed service or your commercial offerings can provide, right? So I think that's one big difference in terms of focus. The other one is really around um, how you approach how you approach your customer journey.
Hmm.
So outside of open source, if you don't have an open source product, you're probably doing a lot of There's a lot more emphasis on pre-sales, POCs, and evaluations, and competitive analysis, etc.
Yeah.
Um, with an open source product, most of your customers have already self-evaluated that and done that, and then they come to you with with many of those questions answered, and then you're just helping them clarify a few things as they go along. So where they are in the buying journey is also they're a little bit further along, I would say,
Mhm.
uh, when they approach us. But that also means that your product has got to be great, that you've got to invest in the product to give them a great experience right out of the gate before they even interact with another human. So those are the differences between those two categories. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think 40 million downloads. I don't think you reach that point without it being an incredible product, right? And
Yep.
how does community usage like feed into the commercial offering?
Really important in the case of cyber,
Okay.
because as opposed to any other category, because threats are always emerging every minute, every day.
Yes.
And having a big community gives us the eyes and ears of the latest emerging threats in
Mhm.
terms, and we get contributions, in fact, from many community members, like, hey, I saw this, here's a way to kind of like resolve it, and we'll build it out into the product, etc. So it's uh, it becomes a community effort, a team effort to keep you as an individual user is strengthened by the fact that you have this community of users who are your eyes and ears,
Mm.
looking out for what are the latest emerging threats and making sure that Prowler or any cybersecurity open source product is able to protect you on that. So that's the other thing that's really helpful with the community.
Okay, fine. And have like cloud misconfigurations and risks changed as maybe environments get more complex as the industry grows?
Um, yes, we see lots of new services coming up that people are using. So cloud used to be mostly infrastructure services. You got servers, compute, identity maybe from your AWS, Google Cloud, or Azure.
Mhm.
And now it's a lot more other platforms that you might be using.
Mhm.
So you might be using a Cloudflare, you might be using an Okta, you might be using a MongoDB Atlas Cloud, for
Mhm.
example, as your database service. You might be using GenAI, LLMs, OpenAI or Gemini or or Anthropic, etc.
Yeah,
So it's gone beyond sort of the just the platform capability. It's sort of like all the other cloud services that I use to build my application,
sure.
and Prowler has grown to be able to support all of that as well. So that's the main difference that we've seen
Okay.
in
Oh,
terms of.
and where do you see CSPM and cloud posture management heading as a category?
I think it's going to be broadly around cloud security. So I don't, I think what customers are really concerned about is, my most important assets are running in the cloud. So
Mhm.
my IP is there, my data is there, whether it's customer data or corporate data. I want to protect that. I'm running really valuable resources that I'm spending money on, compute, storage. I don't want that being misused
Mhm.
uh, with some malware or some Bitcoin mining and things like that, right?
Sure.
Those are the core things that people want to be able to protect. CSPM is is one way to sort of ensure that those assets can be protected, but they
Sure.
really care about protecting those assets. So anything that you need to be able to do that is sort of part of the solution that they're looking at. So I think
Okay.
really that's what is really focused on, is sort of cloud security, helping them achieve their goal, independent of sort of what tool or category that you kind of like look at.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. And if we look into the future for Prowler, obviously we're very very close to
Yeah.
2026 now, right? What's coming next from a product or a capability perspective?
So, we were sort of, we were sort of the world's most widely adopted open source tool for cloud security.
Mhm.
What we talk about now is securing any cloud at AI speed. So
Okay.
we've built all of those capabilities because your attacks are coming fast and furious.
Yeah.
It used to be humans, now it's all bots. And in order to be able to sort of deal with those threats, you need to be able to respond at machine speed or AI speed. And
Mhm.
that's what Prowler helps the customers do is, secure your cloud at at AI speed. Where we're heading next is sort of turning Prowler into an autonomous cloud security engineer. So imagine being, and it's always a team effort, cloud security. So imagine being on a cloud security engineering team and having an expert cloud security engineer riding shotgun with you that you can ask questions of, get advice from, feedback on, questions that you might have to make your job easier, right? So I think that's where it's going, where we're building sort of that autonomous capability for a cloud security engineer that is going to turbocharge teams, on their security journey.
Okay. And you've 3x'd in subscription or downloads this year. What does success look like over the next 12 months? Are we aiming for another 3x, or are we pushing higher? What's realistic?
Definitely, we are pushing for way more than that on our ARR growth standpoint.
Yeah.
So we're excited about that. We really believe we can build a $100 million ARR business in pretty short order, and then go from there. Go for a $1 billion business like what Wiz has done in 5 years. So that's the North Star that we have in our mind that we can sort of get to.
Amazing. It's important to aim higher, right? Who should be looking at Prowler right now?
Anybody that's running a service in the cloud.
Okay.
So if obviously if you're using the obvious ones, Amazon, Azure, GCP, Google Cloud, look at us. But also if you're running Microsoft 365, if you've got code repositories running in GitHub,
Mhm.
uh, if you've done any kind of automation with infrastructure as code, whether it's Terraform or CloudFormation, look at us, right? Now we also support Oracle Cloud. So if you've got, if you're there, look at us, right? If you've
Mhm.
got data support from MongoDB Atlas, look at us. And there's more coming down the road, like I mentioned,
Yeah.
around CloudFormation, around Cloudflare and other providers as well.
Amazing. And where can more or get involved in the project?
Very, very straightforward. Just go check us out on prowler.com. We have links to our GitHub repository if you want to, look at the open source project, become a contributor. We also have links to our Slack channel on prowler.com.
Nice.
Join our Slack community to be part of that. And in both of these places, we've got a number of webinars and webcasts recorded in terms of giving you more detail on sort of how to be a contributor, how to use the product, how to get onboarded, become more familiar with it, etc.
Cool. Brilliant. Listen, Rajiv, thanks so much for joining. I've really enjoyed the conversation and appreciate you walking us through how Prowler maybe fits into the modern cloud security stack, right? And you're the first vendor that I know of that we've interviewed that started as a open source project that is now turning into a managed service. So I really appreciate your insights.
Thanks, Gareth. Enjoyed the conversation, and look forward to maybe doing this again sometime later.